Okay, this is my Sith Sorcerer Healer, the Corruption Discipline in the Old Republic, in my Kosh stronghold. I want to go over a little bit of what they call, I hate the slang, the internet slang is a proc, but it's when one ability gives a buff to another, processes a buff to another. It's really important for the Sorcerer and the Sage, the Jedi Sage Healer anymore, because you will run out of force very quickly if you do not take advantage of these buffs. They did increase the strength of the heals on these classes, but they doubled the cost in force for these things. So you can very quickly find yourself running out of force. There is a way to restore force. This again is very tied to getting a buff for that ability. If you do not do that, it will restore some force, but it will also decrease the rate at which your force regenerates. So you don't want to use that ability without a buff either. It's right down here. It used to be called consumption. You used to take away some of your health and restore your force. They got rid of the health loss. But what they did now is they put a thing called weary on it. So if I try to restore my force just by using this consuming darkness now, it will restore force, but it also slows the rate at which force generally will regenerate. And not a good thing. Now there's a way to get around that. There's a buff you can get. To get that, you're very tied into a pretty strict rotation of skills. The difficulty is you're going to have to wait for these skills to come off cooldown until you can use them. And this is where it can get messy. So let's start with the basic heal that you're going to be using. Something you're almost always going to be using is right here, if you can see it lighting up, it's called Resurgence. This gives a buff to various things. For Dark Infusion, it will actually reduce the cast time by half of a second. But there's some more important buffs that it gives to other things. For one thing, if you use Resurgence and then you use Dark Heal, which is quite expensive for the amount of healing it does, it gives the critical hit chance, its chance to do much more healing by 60%, which is pretty good. That will come in a little later. This heal right here that is now causing to be lit up is called Innervate. This will give you stacks of a buff that will remove the penalty for using Consuming Darkness. That happens when Innervate has critical heals, critical hits. So you want to have a very high critical chance for this, and here's where Resurgence comes in. Resurgence will increase the critical hit chance of Innervate. So much of what we do is going to be based upon using Resurgence and Innervate. Also, what this has done, and it's unrelated to healing, it's related to gear, is that now as a Sorcerer Healer or a Jedi Sage Healer, you want to have a whole lot of critical chance, more than you wanted before, because you want to be getting critical hits with Innervate on the Sorcerer or Healing Trance on the Sage as often as possible. You're going to rely on them. So I've had to change my gear quite a bit to make sure my critical chance was as high as I could. So I'm going to heal my companion here, and you will see the buffs light up. You'll see when I get the result of getting my buff on Consuming Darkness, and I'll show you the greater effect of Dark Heal. You will see green numbers on my companion as a healer. So there's that. Now I use Innervate, and now I'm getting Force Surge. I got 3 stacks. I had 3 critical hits. And this lit up, Consuming Darkness. Now I can restore force without degenerating its base rate of regeneration. Now that buff is starting to go down. You can see there's a timer on it. It's running down to 3 stacks. I'll hit her again. I got another stack from it. You can get a maximum of 3 stacks. So I'm always using these 3. Now, what I'm going to do, this will give me an instant. I'm using Dark Infusion, which gives me an instant and free Dark Heal. But if I hit her with Resurgence again, I got a nice big heal from that. Not only was it instant, I had 2 procs there. I had an instant Dark Heal from using Dark Infusion. After I used Dark Infusion, I used Resurgence So then Dark Heal costs no energy, it went instant, and it also had a critical hit. To use Dark Heal without those buffs, it's really a loss. The cost time is long. The relative amount of force it costs compared to other heals is very high. And it's weaker because it doesn't have the critical chance buff to it. So I'm just going to heal a little bit here. You'll watch my force going down. Now I got my stacks there, so now I'm going to heal her with Dark Infusion. Got the buff. Hit her with that. Hit her again here with this. Now another Innervate, keeping my stacks up. Now I'm going to heal her with Dark Infusion. Again, Resurgence. Instant Dark Heal with an increased critical hit chance. Hit her again with Resurgence. Try to keep my buffs up with Innervate. My force, you can see it's not getting that bad, but it's going down. Again, I got the buff. Get the second buff to it. Now, it restored my force. And I didn't get a degeneration in the rate of my force regeneration. And I'm putting my stacks back with Innervate. Now hit her again, Dark Infusion. I got the buff. That time, the number was smaller. I didn't use Resurgence before I used Dark Heal, and it lost that critical, that increased critical hit chance. So I'm going to do it again. Goes. Much bigger number now. Now I got to wait for that to come off cooldown. Buff. Now I'm going to use Consuming Darkness. I restored my force. Right away, I want to go back to using Resurgence and Innervate to get those stacks back. Okay, Dark Infusion. I got the instant Dark Heal, but I'm going to buff it now with Resurgence, and now it has an increased critical hit chance as well, and a pretty big heal out of it. Back to that. Resurgence once again. Now Innervate can give me my critical hits, so I'm always keeping this up here. I'm always keeping my stacks of Force Surge. Got my buff on Dark Heal. Hit her again with Resurgence. I've got my critical hit chance, and it's instant and costs less. That's basically it. I'm not going over the AoE heals, that's another story, but I think this shows what you got to do to get your buffs. If you do it without this, you're just going to start running out of energy. I mean, if I just start hitting her with Dark Infusions, the healing isn't that great. And you can see my force is running down, and I have no buff. There's only so long you can really do this. So now I'm going to hit that with now Innervate. Now I only got one critical hit there, and so I'm not in a really good spot here with this. I'm really running low on force because I did not obey this. Okay, now I got 3 stacks. What will 3 stacks do for me? Did not bring me back to full force. Now I got 2 stacks of Force Surge. But you see, you don't want to be in this situation if you got a lot of people taking damage and you're all the way down here and you're way down low in force. But you can see the difference. You know, if I start following a good rotation here, I really don't run low on force. I can actually get that little bit back if I want. Got 3 stacks of Force Surge, Dark Infusion, Resurgence, 2 buffs from Dark Heal, so it's a very good heal then. Wait, okay, it's off cooldown. Resurgence, Innervate. I can actually get, I don't need to, but I can get some force back there. See, my healing is actually stronger, although I do have to wait a little bit for some of these buffs because the cooldowns I need to wait for. But I am not running low on force. I'm keeping my force up all the time. And I'm maintaining my stacks of force surge. So yeah, it's a little tedious, but it's really worth doing. And many classes have features somewhat like this. And that's about it for this video. I'll probably do some others where I can show how these buffs work on other classes. They can work for damage abilities, they can work for damage reduction abilities, healing abilities. It just so happens now that the Sorcerer and the Sage are very, very reliant upon this, and failure to take these into account and use them will very rapidly leave you in the hole, and you won't be able to dig yourself out if you're in a bad situation. So that's about it, and I should be back soon with another video on another class, and I'll deal with this again.